Okay, so there's so much to say about step 4. I wanted to do this, we might even have to do it in 3 parts, but I want to talk about fears and sex conduct as well. But did you have a question about the resentments?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question that that goes through my head is that what if the person who is doing step 4 has had experiences in their past which are of an abusive nature, whether it was, emotional, physical, sexual, whatever, domestic violence. To say that you are potentially the architect, and I'm misquoting you because I'm just using the words that you used out of context, but that, how do you respond to that, I guess? Not you, how does the organisation respond to that?
Well, I don't know how the organisation responds to it, because how I respond to it. That's very common, and I'm going to give you the best example I can of that, because I'd say 60 to 70% of the people that I've worked with and taken through the steps and done this inventory with have all experienced some kind of appalling abuse, usually sexual, when they were children. Okay. So the way that I work with that is, so I'm resentful at Uncle Todd for sexually abusing me when I was 8.
Yeah.
You 100% had no part in that, none. You did not invite it, instigate it. You were 100% a victim. That was an appalling and terrible thing that happened. If your father beat you, if your mother neglected you, any kind of awful abuse that happened as a child, you are totally innocent of any responsibility of that happening. So how is it possible to go to the next stage and look at, I've harmed Uncle Todd? I mean, how is it even possible? It really comes down to looking at how we choose to respond to what happens to us. So if you're 25, 35, 45, and these things happen to you, at some point as an adult, you had a choice to report that. You had a choice to get some help, to see a therapist, to join a support group, to speak about your experiences, to embark on a program of healing. But what many of us do is we choose to use that event, that terrible, appalling event that happened to us, as a reason for our own self-destruction. Because at 25, 35, 45, it's not Uncle Todd that's abusing you anymore. It's you that is continuing the abuse to yourself, because that is how you are choosing to respond to that. And here's the thing where you, first of all, get your power back. You have a choice in how you respond to that dreadful thing. And that's the bit that, that kind of stuff was revealed to me, and I was like, because that story is so powerful. Let me get that story out, because first if I get that story out and I put it in front of you, you cannot question me. You cannot tell me I'm messing up my life or I've got a drink problem, because I get that story out and it will disarm you. You cannot say anything to me. It's so powerful. It is my shield to continue living this 50% existence, because I have this really justifiable reason. And what is revealed in this process is you don't. So it doesn't take away, I want to be really clear, children are victims of abuse. You have no part in that. But you, as an adult, at some point you can choose a different way to respond to it. And that's where we get our power back. That's where we get freedom. And sure, that's not something that's going to like, oh, now magic, I'm all great and prove that. Maybe now tomorrow you call a rape support group, or you find a therapist specializing in sexual abuse, or you buy a self-help book on victims of domestic violence, but you do something rather than pouring alcohol down your throat. Does that make sense?
It does, and I guess this next question you've probably heard before. I'm going to take a pretty good guess, but there will be some that would say that my self-esteem was so poor, my self-worth was so low because of those experiences. How I can't get beyond it. I mean, and I say that from a real experience, not my experience personally, but on the alcoholic liver disease ward that I used to work on, there was a woman who was an alcoholic who was getting progressively worse, And when she was dying, she was calling out in her kind of semi-conscious state, and she was talking about things that had happened to her as a child, you know, pertaining to her experience. And so we never understood why she couldn't stop. But when she was dying, we knew very clearly why. And she, for whatever reason, she was unable to get beyond that. And I guess, you know, there are going to be some that would say it's, you know, I just can't, you know, it's destroyed them so much that that's their only solution.
I'd say that's rubbish.
Okay.
Because that's their choice, that it's the solution. Now, I'm not saying that some people need a considerable amount of help.
Yeah.
You know, for serious abuse, absolutely. I would say on your own, I completely agree with you. On your own, you can't. This is too serious and too horrific for you to deal with on your own. Absolutely. You need to get professional, consistent, long-term help. It may take a while, but you still, if you are still rational and breathing, you can choose that.
Yeah.
It's really very much about the power of our stories. And I've equally seen people with, I've worked professionally with people with stories that just literally have just knocked me sideways of the horrificness of what these people have dealt with. And I have seen people inch by inch, day by day, choose to do something to empower and free themselves. And I have seen people do the opposite.
Yeah.
So we always have a choice, Lou. We always have a choice. And yeah, I mean, I totally accept that, you know, quite serious sexual abuse, you know, it really is going to take intensive, keep asking for help, keep getting help, don't stop. Because I've also seen people overcome this.
Yeah, and that's a good balance to and the thing is, my stories are slightly more negative because of the work environment that so it's good that there's the balance there with your more optimistic outcomes than my grim realities, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's really, you know, I've seen so much courage and faith and people really, you know, and you know, the other thing is, unfortunately, the world is full of people who have experienced enormous abuse of different kinds, and a lot of them didn't become alcoholics and addicts.
Yeah, it's true.
A lot of them did overcome it.
Yeah.
You know, so it is certainly possible. That's something you definitely learn in recovery, is the power that our stories have. And the 12 steps are really designed to free us from this story that we have of why my life is the way it is. And it's actually quite terrifying to let go of your story, because it's like who you are, it's your justification, it's your reason for everything. Who would you be without this story? Well, you'd be who you were meant to be all along.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a powerful construct, isn't it? And it shapes how we, you know, how we see ourselves. It defines who we are. It can be limiting or, you know, freeing, as you say. And yeah, that kind of change can be frightening in itself. If that's, you know, if your story suits you, if it makes you, you know, you feel comfortable, then yeah, any kind of change is scary. So is there more to discuss from step 4?
Yeah, let's do that in part 3.